Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird is set in the 1930s, a time of extreme prejudice and racism. Scout, the narrator of the novel, and her father Atticus are the protagonists and share a very close relationship filled with love and pride. They care for each other very much and will defend and stand up for the other if need be. Contrastingly, Bob Ewell, the antagonist, is a cruel and malicious man who cares only for himself. Bob blames Tom Robinson for raping his daughter, and Atticus is appointed to defend Tom in court. Here lies the primary conflict of the novel. Atticus and Bob are also foils. This is demonstrated through their reactions towards difficult situations. After Tom's trial, Atticus does not agree with the outcome and is frustrated. Despite this, he accepts it with grace. On the other hand, Bob Ewell wanted Tom to be found guilty, and even when he was, Bob felt that he was exposed and humiliated in court. As a response to this, he reacts out of anger without considering the consequences. He does things such as breaking into Judge Taylor's house when he thought no one was home. Their personalities are also opposites because Atticus is more kind and accepting, whereas Bob is impulsive and cruel.
What kind of man are you? You got children of your own.
Atticus's kind nature is similar to Julio Diaz from Steven Spielberg's short video titled He Was Robbed at Knife Point and Made a Friend. One night, while Julio was coming home from work in the Bronx, a teenager held him at knife point to take his money. Without hesitation, Julio handed over his wallet, and for most that would have been the end. However, instead of shying away, Julio gives the young boy his coat to keep him warm and takes him out to dinner. His reasoning behind this unusual act is evident when he says to the boy,
I'm like, well, I don't know, man. If you're willing to risk your freedom for a few dollars, then I guess you must really need the money.
If Atticus from To Kill a Mockingbird were in this situation, he would have had a similar reaction, as he is known to show courtesy and grace in the face of danger. Throughout the novel, there is a predominant theme of love as a cause of suffering. This is evident when Atticus suffers deeply because he loves justice. After Tom Robinson's trial that found him guilty of raping Myella Ewell, her father, Bob Ewell, was left with intense lingering feelings of contempt for everyone involved in the trial. Bob even threatened Atticus as a way of publicly displaying his anger. Ultimately, because of Atticus's love for justice and his relentless attempts to bring justice to Tom, he suffers by being threatened by Bob. Similar to Atticus's suffering, Antonio from William Shakespeare's Twelfth Night suffers as a result of his love for Sebastian. After saving Sebastian from the depth of the ocean and spending many months together, they develop an extremely strong bond, one mimicking that of filial love, meaning brotherly love. Antonio even says, "If you will not murder me for my love, let me be your servant," further proving his devotion to Sebastian. As a consequence of past sea battles with the Duke, the town of Illyria is very dangerous territory for Antonio. However, he follows his beloved into the town regardless. He eventually gets captured by the Duke's men and therefore is arrested. This brings to light the fact that because of Antonio's love for Sebastian, he suffers by being arrested. An event which is crucial to the plot of the story is that of Tom Robinson's death. Not long after he is found guilty and put in prison, he was caught attempting to escape during the exercise period and shot 17 times to death. Tom's death is a key event to the story as it deeply affects many characters in different ways. Even Aunt Alexandra, who is openly against her brother's persistence with the case, is seen feeling remorse and surprise after hearing the news. This event relates to the apparent tension that is fate versus free will. Throughout the novel, Tom has extremely little control over the outcome of his fate. During his trial, his fate is decided by a group of white men, the jury. The jury collectively decide that Tom is guilty of his alleged crime, thus stripping him of his free will. As a result, he is taken to prison and loses what little shred of free will he had. The only moment when Tom decides to be responsible for his own fate is when he attempts to escape prison. His longing for free will influences him to do so. As a consequence, he is killed. This tension is apparent when Atticus says while reporting Tom's death to his family in Calpurnia, "I guess he was tired of white men's chances and preferred to take his own." Regardless of the light and youthful tone at the beginning of the novel, in the second half, the tone turns serious and melancholic, indicating Scout's loss of innocence. The second half of the novel focuses on Tom Robinson's trial and is followed by little commentary from Scout, unlike the beginning. The trial is harsh and grim, and with it, Scout's innocence is rapidly lost. The tone of the event and how Scout reacts to it greatly influences the tone of the second half of the novel. Clothing is a repeatedly used symbol throughout the novel. Scout is constantly dismissing other characters, in particular her Aunt Alexandra, attempting to get her to wear ladylike clothing. Scout is almost always described dressed in boys' clothing, such as overalls, and only wears a dress once in the novel. Scout's continuous refusal to wear feminine clothing symbolizes her stubbornness and courage to go against the social norms. This relates back to the theme of love as a cause of suffering, because as a result of Scout's love for unladylike clothing, she suffers by constantly being told to change her clothes as well as herself. Additionally, another frequently used symbol are Miss Maudie's azaleas. Just as Miss Maudie's azaleas are the most beautiful flower in her garden, Miss Maudie has one of the most beautiful souls in Maycomb. She nurtures and tends very carefully to her azaleas. This is seen when during an unusually cold winter, she tries to keep her flowers warm by wrapping them in burlap bags. This demonstrates the huge lengths Miss Maudie will go to in order to protect her azaleas. These flowers are a symbol for Jem and Scout, as Miss Maudie nurtures the children much similarly to her azaleas, in a loving environment. She does this through simple actions such as spending time with Jem and Scout and making them cakes. In conclusion, Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird is a novel about social injustice, racism clouding reasonable judgment, good and evil, and showcases love and acceptance as a solution. Overall, the novel leaves us with countless life lessons, however the principal one being that people are people, regardless of race or social class.